A crown can be taken in a day. A dynasty has to be performed every time the court looks at the family. If the family does not look like tomorrow, the crown still belongs to yesterday. That is why Bertrada matters. History often introduces Bertrada of Laon as the wife of Pepin the Short and the mother of Charlemagne. That is true. It is also too small. Because a king who cannot make his children believable as the future is only a powerful man delaying the next war. Bertrada's importance is dynastic visibility, not decoration. She is part of the answer to a question every court has to ask when a new house takes power. Can this order survive one man's body? Can it be seen, named, repeated and inherited before the old world finds a way back in? Pepin could seize the center of Frankish power. He could command the armies, hold the roads, collect obligations, and make nobles answer to him. But kingship did not become stable just because one man was strong. The old Merovingian line still carried memory. It still had the residue of sacred habit. People knew what that older dynasty looked like. They had watched it sit in the royal place for generations. Even when that line was weak, it still had the weight of recognition. It had names, hair, ceremonies, habits, stories, and the strange power of being familiar. So the new Carolingian order had to do more than remove an old king. It had to teach the court what the next order looked like. Bertrada gave Pepin's kingship a household. She made the Carolingian future visible in the room. This is the part of monarchy people forget. Rule is not only command. Rule is recognition, repeated across bodies, marriages, children, rituals, tables, doors, and rooms. Pepin could make men obey today. The church could bless his office. But Bertrada helped make the new dynasty look like it could survive dinner, childbirth, inheritance, rumor, and waiting. That is not decoration. That is statecraft. A queen in this world is not simply a private companion beside a powerful man. Her public presence can make a claim legible. Her household can organize rank. Her children can turn a seizure of power into a story about continuity. Her place at court can tell ambitious men that the new order is not a temporary command camp. It is becoming a house, and a house can be watched. For a Frankish noble, the question was not only whether Pepin was strong. The sharper question was what happened after Pepin. Would his death reopen the old violence? Would every oath become a negotiation again? Would sons, brothers, cousins, bishops, and armed men all begin counting what they could take? Every new dynasty has to answer that question before anyone has to lift a sword. The answer cannot be only a battle record. A battle record dies with the warrior. It cannot be only papal sanction. A blessing can authorize a moment, but a kingdom still has to wake up the next morning and know who stands where. It cannot be only fear, because fear teaches men to wait for weakness. The court has to see a future it can recognize. Bertrada helped answer that question by making succession visible before succession arrived.
A crown that dies with me is no crown at all.
Then show them a house, not only a throne.
Sources do not preserve the private sound of that room, but the political truth is visible. A new king needs more than victory. He needs witnesses who can imagine obedience continuing after his body is gone. That is where Bertrada's presence becomes political. Dress, posture, rank, marriage, children, and ritual become part of the court's calculation. The Queen's jewels are not the argument by themselves. The argument is continuity. The family can be named, watched, repeated, remembered. The court can see a wife beside the king, sons near the household, letters on the table, seals in use, clerics in the room, nobles measuring the arrangement. The king is not alone. That matters. To modernize, that can look like a family scene. To a court trained to read power, it is a succession argument. The household says, "This crown has a next page." Young Charles matters before he rules because he is evidence. Not a full answer yet, not a legend yet. A child inside an experiment that everyone in the room is judging. He is not Charlemagne in that room, not yet. He is a son whose existence lets men imagine the crown moving forward. Carloman matters too, even when this episode only lets him appear as a second heir, a pressure at the edge of the frame. Together, the sons make Pepin's crown stronger and more dangerous. Because two sons can promise continuity, two sons can also split attention, loyalty, land, and ambition. But Dynasty solves one problem by creating another. If the crown can pass to sons, which son carries the future? Charles and Carloman were not born into a simple inheritance. They were born into a family powerful enough to rule widely and fragile enough to divide itself by lawful succession. That is why Bertrada belongs near the center of the story. She is not simply the mother of the famous son, she is one of the figures who makes the famous son possible. Pepin's coup could have remained a brilliant seizure of power. Bertrada helps turn it into a visible order. The court can picture the next generation. The bishops can bless more than one moment. The nobles can imagine survival without immediate chaos. The children can be watched as heirs, not accidents. And once children are watched as heirs, they become political facts before they become rulers. This is the hidden labor of Dynasty. It does not only win consent by saying who has power, it wins consent by making people rehearse where power will go next. But every system that can be inherited can also be contested. Every household that proves continuity also teaches rivals where continuity lives. Every son who makes the dynasty believable can become the son another faction chooses. That is the trap inside the achievement. Bertrada made the dynasty credible. Soon that visibility would become rivalry. The same rooms that made the Carolingian future visible would become rooms where men counted brothers against brothers. The same household that answered the fear after Pepin would produce the next fear. Not whether the new family could survive, but whether the family could survive itself. This is why the story cannot jump straight from Pepin to Charlemagne, as if greatness simply appears. The empire begins earlier, in the fragile work of making a crown look inheritable. Before Charles can become the name Europe remembers, he has to be seen as a boy inside a dangerous house. And Bertrada helps make that house impossible to ignore. Next, the brothers inherit the same order, and inheritance begins to turn against itself.